Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We're really here for two purposes. One is to discuss a case that's going to be arraigned shortly, and the second is really to ask for your help in getting out a message. The first is today, an individual named Henry Rapper, who is 57 years old from Melrose, is going to be arraigned at 2 o'clock in the Cambridge District Court. And that is in connection with the alleged theft of significant amount of funds from two clients who had retained him to act as their attorney. And as we'll explain a little bit, this case is both about that financial theft and the abuse of trust. And in these cases, first there are two clients. The first client entrusted the defendant with approximately $660,000 to be held safely in a client trust account. The allegation is that Mr. Rapper did not, in fact, safeguard those funds, but misused them, and when requested, failed to return that money. When he was being questioned and confronted by the client, he delayed, he deflected, and he ultimately ignored not just the client, but the regulatory authorities. And even more troubling, that conduct allegedly continued after Mr. Rapper was explicitly ordered by the court to stop practicing law. As part of that order to stop practicing law, Mr. Rapper was directed to close all of the trust accounts he had, return client funds, and step away from any fiduciary responsibilities that he had towards his client. Despite that order, he allegedly continued to practice law. And as late as December 29th of 2025, he is alleged to have handled a real estate closing for a separate client. And instead of properly distributing the proceeds of that sale, he allegedly retained $3,200 as well as an additional $18,100 that should have been distributed to the clients, and he spent those funds as well. So we have the $660,000 from the first client and the $18,100 plus the $3,200. It reflects a continuing and a concerning pattern of conduct. The rules around who has the privilege of practicing law exist exactly in part for these reasons, to protect the public. When you ignore those rules, especially after you've been suspended because of your conduct, it creates a serious risk for clients who may not realize that they are now unprotected. And this case and the bringing of these charges really reflects our continuing commitment to that. Mr. Rapper will today be charged with 2 counts of embezzlement or misapplication by a fiduciary, 2 counts of larceny over $1,200, and the unauthorized practice of law. But in addition, we want to talk a little bit and really ask your help in getting the message to people that they not see this case in isolation, because we are now either investigating or working on charged cases, unfortunately involving a number of similar instances. We also know that other authorities, including the Board of Bar Overseers, have been seeing additional rises in the numbers of these kinds of cases. So the question is, what should you do in retaining a lawyer? Certainly the recommendation is that do your research. You are going to hire someone to take on a great deal of responsibility for you. You want to be certain that that is someone who is worthy of that trust, who is not then the subject of any disciplinary action. So for instance, in this case, the allegation is that Mr. Rapper, despite the fact that he had been ordered not to practice law, was in fact continuing to practice law. So make sure that's not the situation. Make sure that you are the one looking for somebody instead of being perhaps solicited by someone to help you. When you give an attorney that you might hire, what's known as the retainer, that initial payment of money, you are entitled to have a continuing accounting of that money. So if you've paid a certain amount up front, where is that money going? Certainly don't be giving more money if you're not satisfied that you know where that initial investment went. And if you are asking for those accountings or itemized bills, if you will, and you're not getting them, that itself should be a red flag. You should also be certain that you have those accountings before any money is being transferred out of a trust or your own accounts. And if you are not satisfied with what's happening, you can report that matter to the Board of Bar Overseers, report to the local police, and you certainly should stop payment on any instruments that you've been doing. The message is that you should be very careful before you get involved in this. You should keep track of what you're giving. Be certain you understand where the money is going. And if you're not satisfied, make that report. This is particularly true because Massachusetts does protect clients' attorneys. And as a result of the Client Security Board, you have the possibility of recovery. So sometimes people think that they can't do anything about what's happened. We are asking to get that message out about how important it is to do all of those things. I'll take a few questions with respect either to this case or to the subject more generally.
Yeah, sure. You mentioned that, that you were investigating a number of similar cases. Are these in any way related to Mr. Rappo?
No, just other situations where somebody in a position of trust, there are allegations, and they are at this point, allegations with respect to the appropriate use of that money.
Now, the second instance you mentioned had to do with real estate. Did the first client as well, was that a real estate related case?
Well, it was a bigger issue, but the second one was the transfer of that property.
And will these folks be able to recover the money that was taken from them?
It is our hope that the way it works is you first have to, if the individual who's responsible has been found guilty, held accountable, then you would have to pursue recovering from them first. Perhaps there's insurance or assets. If you are not able to satisfy what you're lost, then the Client Security Board gets involved in making an assessment of helping you.
I understand you're asking the public for help in similar cases, and you mentioned you're investigating a number of similar cases. Can you give us any amount of how many of these instances you're seeing and where any of these?
We have over a half dozen ourselves active right now, which is not itself a huge number. It is a big number when you think about the amounts of money, even the amount of money in this case. And we know from other regulatory authorities that this growing number of cases continues.
Is he in custody?
No, he's not in custody.
See, you said he's not allowed to practice. Does that mean he's been disbarred?
He's been suspended from the practice of law. He was back in before the December transferring. So in July of 2025, he was suspended despite that suspension. And again, that's why it's important to do your research, because had research been done, you can see on the Board of Bar Overseers website that somebody's in a suspended status. And of course it's never a defense that somebody didn't see that, but what we want to do is prevent these things from happening. So when you're thinking about hiring somebody who may be involved in the sale of a home, for instance, that's worth a lot of money, involved in an estate, that sort of thing, just do that research up front so you're satisfied who you have acting for you.
And when a lawyer's in that suspended status, that means that they could perhaps get returned into law practice? Or
It is possible.
It's like being investigated?
It is possible, but coming with that, as I pointed out, the Board of Bar Overseers tells you that you are ordered to return your money. You are to cease acting in the capacity of an attorney and sort of step back from everything you have. In this case, there was not only not a stepping back, but actually going out and being involved in additional situations.
How were you all alerted to the fact that he was still practicing law in December? Was there a court filing or something that led you to the fact that he was still practicing?
We got a report regarding the second transaction.
Are you able to just talk more about what type of law that was being continued to be practiced, and how you were able to find out?
So the first one involved civil litigation, the second involved that land transaction. Thank you. Thank you for helping us out with this. Appreciate it.